I have been creating for most of my life. I have been doing just about every craft I could probably think of off the top of my head. I've sewn, I've drawn, I've made things with clay, I've painted, I've made puppets. I have made decorations that really don't have any purpose besides the fact that I find them cool. I have made toys. I have done so many different little things. And over the years, I started to get a bit narrowed in it because everyone's like, oh, you gotta niche down. Keep niching down so you can find your audience so then you can make money and blah 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 blah. And honestly, that's fucking boring. Everyone's constantly like, you need to be marketable. You need to be marketable so you can sell this and this and this and so you can make a living and blah blah blah. Yada yada yada. And honestly, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it, you know? I started just saying, yeah, I'm an artist. I'm a digital artist. I'm a comic artist, specifically, to even narrow it down further. I am a comic artist. That's what I've been saying for years now. Since I was in high school, I've said, I am a comic artist. That's how I've, kind of shown myself on the internet, besides, some cosplay here and there, and specifically now I have specific places for that. So I've spent all this time niching myself down into little boxes to make it more palatable for other people and to potentially make it marketable. But I'm not just a comic artist. I draw so many other things that aren't comics. I'm also a writer. I'm currently working on a novel. And I drew the cover and some character art for it. So I'm not just a comic artist. And right now, I just decided, fuck it. I think my plain black leather trench coat needs some fur trim, so I'm adding some fur trim. And then I'm gonna paint the back of it and add eyeballs. Why? Because I think that's cool, and I wasn't wearing this trench coat because I thought it was too boring, and it was something that my mom just bought me, and it was fast fashion, and I'm trying to separate myself from that. So the clothes I'm wearing, this is from the thrift store. This I found. I have no idea where the fuck this came from. It showed up in my stuff in a move. It could not be mine, but I'm wearing it. This was a gift. And then these are from small businesses. And then my pants and my boots I've had for years. So that's just a little tangent aside the point. But I've done all these different things. I'm a cosplayer, I make cosplays, I customize my own clothes, I paint on my own jeans, I paint on jackets and stuff like that, I sew patches to jackets and vests. I just took apart my battle vest because I was like, okay, this thing is falling apart, and that is something I've had since middle school. It used to be a little pleather jacket that I started sewing back together as it started falling apart. Newsflash, it did not stay together. But I have been doing so many different things for all my life. Niching down so much feels dishonest, feels like I'm lying, you know? And I tried so hard to just focus on my comics, and honestly I got burnt out because what was I doing for most of the time where I worked at a specific company where I had a 9-to-5 office job. I also was specifically an at-home worker as well. I was doing social media, but I was also a social media marketer. So that's another thing that I was also doing that's kind of creative. It just wasn't the creative lens I wanted to do specifically because it was sales. So I was just marketing that way, and it was kind of boring. However, I know I have fun with social media when I just allow myself to just say fuck it lol and just do whatever the fuck I want, you know? And after spending almost 3 years at that job before getting laid off because the fucking economy went to fucking shit, and then I moved countries. Before that, when I was at that job, I started taking my social media more seriously. I stopped having fun with it, and I was burnt out, honestly. I was really burnt out. I felt like a hamster on a wheel, constantly going but going nowhere. And it was frustrating. And I was like, I used to have so much fun just making things, making skits, making freaking so much crazy shit. Like, I have been on YouTube. Like, I've had 3 channels. They're all down below. My first one, I've changed the name so many different times, but I started it back in 6th or 7th grade. I think it might have been 7th grade. So I was really little on YouTube, and I experienced a lot of hate. Like, I went through a lot. Actually, no, I think I was younger because I started YouTube before my dad died. So I was in like 5th grade. So I was even smaller than I thought. So I was on YouTube from a very young and impressionable age, and I did a lot of content that was also like, it was weird. It was a mix of mental health and skits and like different little fandom things, but I would jump from different topics and I would have fun with it. And I even had a collab channel with some other YouTubers when I was in middle school, and that God, I hope other people can't find that, but I had fun doing it. Even when my health was like going to shit, I had fun with YouTube. And I had fun doing all these different things. Like, on TikTok, I also started doing the Odd Swamp Emporium, which I make little characters, and it's kind of like Quincy's Tavern, but instead of being a tavern, it's an emporium that sells and rescues animals to like adopt them out. And I made a giant dragon puppet for it, and I had so much fun doing it because little me also really loved puppets, which is kind of funny since I also hated porcelain dolls. So like that, they're separate, but they have a little too much overlap, however. But my point in all of this is I lost more and more pieces of myself the more marketable I tried to make myself, which is just honestly such an interesting thing to think about, because that's kind of what capitalism does to you. Is at the end of the day, you become a worker, an employee, or you're a student, or you are someone who is making other workers. That is basically what they kind of categorize most everyday people into, and I don't like that, you know? And especially as like we move on in life, they try to sometimes they try to devalue, that's the word I was looking for, art, even though everything you're wearing, someone had to design and make, even if it is fast fashion. So many people's hands have touched your clothes and have made it. There is no machine that just perfectly sews together a garment. That does not exist. There are machines that cut out fabrics into pattern pieces. However, someone still has to sew them together. Someone has to touch that. Someone has to, even before the pattern is cut out, someone has to make the pattern. Someone has to design that. Even if it's someone who's just taking a different design and figuring it out, that's what a lot of fast fashion does. That's still work that someone did. And like, we've gotten to a point where, one, even with this like closing of Joann's, people have monopolized and devalued art as just a little craft thing, something that's woman's work and shit like that to devalue it. So it's really interesting when you think about it all together, because it's like capitalism, patriarchy, and then the devaluing of art devalues people, because intrinsically art is a part of humanity. It is what kind of separates us from every other animal. We have art because we can hope, we believe, and we can dream of a new future, and that is something that honestly animals can't do. Like, from what we can tell, animals cannot do that, and that is what separates us. It's not us being smarter or anything like that. It's intrinsically who we are, is to dream of what could be, and that is what makes us human. And how do you express what could be? A lot of the times it's through art, it's through expression. I want to live in a world where someone can walk out and just wear whatever the fuck they want. Someone's wearing a full like ball gown down the street, fuck it. Someone's over there dressed up as a fucking elf pirate sailing the seas, go ahead, you know? But we have also this idea of like cringe culture, and it also goes into society's whole thing of shaming people for being different, because when you're different, they don't know how to market you, they don't know how to keep you in line if you do not even fall near the line. And then we can also talk about gender and all that shit, but I'm specifically talking about niching yourself down and how that leads to artistic burnout, because it is a huge issue. Oh, that is... okay, thread. It's a huge issue that a lot of artists feel, and like, a lot of the times I've seen people say, oh, if you're burnt out with art, either you don't love it enough or just take a break. I don't think you should take a break necessarily all the time, because sometimes that's not what helps art at all. You need to diversify what you are doing and what you are consuming. So, my whole point that I'm trying to get at, now that my camera has overheated again, is that I am not just one thing, and honestly, none of us are just one thing. Niching down, while it helps algorithms and marketability, it doesn't really help us as who we are as people, you know? And I think we would all be a lot happier if we just allowed ourselves to be multiple things. Because I will talk about gender just a little bit, and like sexuality, or like biology a little bit. There is not like a single person on this planet that's 100% female or 100% male, like specifically, because there are so many different hormone variations, chromosomal variation, genitalia variations. There is so much variation in who we are in biology, in freaking every form of who we are, also mentally. Like, just look at how many different like style categories there are. It's fucking crazy. Like, I grew up and I was, I guess you would say, emo, basically. I like to wear black a lot. I listen to Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens, Black Veil Bride, you know, all the emo bands. I listened to them. I freaking went to Warped Tour, and honestly, I still listen to a lot of the bands, not the problematic ones. However, I do listen to a lot of the bands still to this day. But I also listen to a bunch of punk music. I listen to a lot of metal music. I listen to pop music. I listen to rock. I listen to new metal and old metal. I listen to folk punk. My playlist is wild, honestly. Because I go from, oh, here's a musical that I'm listening to. Like, oh my god, the Frankenstein musical. I fuck with those songs so much. Like Modern Day Prometheus. Fucking love those songs. However, if our music tastes, our style tastes, and also things as basic as sexuality gender, and sex can be so diverse, why should we niche down like careers and like who we are as people? That's fucking wild to me. And like for a while I fell for it. I was like trying to like not sew as much. I didn't want to like break too much out of my niche, which I thought was comic artist. And I still make comics. I'm hoping to publish comics and freaking do all this fucking crazy shit. Oh, I said that wrong. Oopsie. Artist. See, that's another good thing that I like about sewing. If I don't like something, I can just snip the fucking threads. And then boom. It's fine. Honestly, because this is just mine and I can't wash this jacket, I might just glue that. Like, I'm not too nitpicky about that type of stuff, you know? If it works, it works. And since this is also gonna get painted and I'm probably gonna end up having to glue some stuff, I might add some studs and stuff too. Like, whatever. You know, I am having fun. And that is the important part. Okay? But, like I was saying, oh, hello, Siri. The human experience is so strange and diverse. Like, we have so many different religions. We have so many different, like, ethnicities. We have so many different people all around the globe. And we just want to somehow simplify that when the whole point of being human and the whole point of life, in my opinion, is to, one, find purpose, and two, to experience different things. That is like my great philosophy. Other people have said the same shit, okay? Because a lot of the times, most people listen to, let's just talk about race a little bit. Most people would rather talk to a white face and listen to a white face than to listen to people of color, even though they have known a lot of this shit a lot longer than white people. Because white people have this weird thing, okay? And white people, I am white. I have like a little tiny Middle Eastern, like 3 generations back. That is it, okay? I am white people. But us white people, we like to do this thing where we want everything to be the same. And we don't like differences, and we are blah, 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 blah. We just can't stand people being different than us. But then at the same time, we yearn for culture and we yearn for all these different things that other cultures have. And we're like, why do I feel so empty? Why can they have this and I can't? Newsflash. The first people that white people colonized were themselves. We colonized ourselves. And ironically, we niched ourselves down into just being white people instead of Irish people, instead of freaking Scottish and Norwegian and freaking Swedish and Finnish and Russian and Slovakian, and just every single different culture we could have had. We have niched ourselves down further into not having a culture. And that has led to a lot of white people feeling hollow and empty, and that's why they have to freaking culturally appropriate. Because they want to feel this community. And white people don't have that. Like, think about it. What is one thing that you could say is like white culture? That's not like being funny, like clapping on airplanes and doing the smile at other people. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about like actual like white culture. There's not, because white isn't actually a thing. It is an idea of this purity culture and this patriarchal and capitalistic and white supremacist ideal, because white isn't a thing. It's really not. Just like freaking someone being one thing is not a thing. It's all made to, one, divide us further, and two, to make it easier for us to be palatable. And I'm not aiming to be palatable. This is already so dumb and so fun, like it's so fun already. But like soon, I'm thinking about also putting like eyes, like painted eyes on the sleeves. So like if I like go like that, people can like see eyes or something. Like I don't know, I think it'd be cool. And then like on the back, I want to have more painted eyes and potentially like squiggles at the end of it. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. So with culture and everything like that also being something that's been demonized and also something that has been trying to be colonized away, we can basically see what the end goal basically is for capitalism. Because they do not want us to have cultures for ourselves, they don't want us to think for ourselves, they just basically want us to be perfect little worker bees. Why? Because a system that is so focused on endless growth and profit is unsustainable. Okay? So they basically all know, and by they I mean like billionaires and people like that are in charge, and people who think like this, they basically want to get to the point where they can have all of their needs met hand and foot like kings of old. And even more so, they want people to be so focused on trying to beat the system, trying to climb up the ladder and do all of these different things, while also making it so they live unfulfilling lives, so they don't even have the energy to fight back against what is happening to them. And honestly, on a micro level, I think the fact that they want us to niche down so fucking much to be marketable is just proof of that. Like, as a kid, when people asked you what did you want to be, a lot of the times kids had like a list of things they wanted to be. I remember mine, still to this day, I wanted to be an artist, I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to freaking make robots. That was my whole thing. I loved science, I wanted to make robots, I wanted to be an inventor, I wanted to help people. But then, as like I developed, I was like, I'm not good at math, and programming stuff intimidates the fuck out of me, so that's probably not going to be it. Still love just listening to people invent stuff and all of that stuff. I love it. However, I had all of these lofty dreams. I went to science camp. I was one of the few kids from my school that actually was able to go because my grades were high enough, despite the fact that I was sick all the time and I was not there most of the time. But yeah, I had all these lofty dreams. And I remember specifically in 4th grade is when the switch happened for me. And it wasn't even just me realizing I'm bad at math and programming probably won't be easy for me because I'm dyslexic and have dyscalculus, and that's a double whammy. But it wasn't that. It was my teacher. And basically, she, on the first day of school, had us all stand up and say what we wanted to be when we grew up, okay? And I remember being like, okay, well, we can only say one thing, so I'm gonna say the thing that I'm most passionate about, which is art. And when it got to me, I remember going, I want to be an artist. And she looked at me, she kind of laughed, and she went, that's not a realistic career choice. Choose something else, and you're gonna say it tomorrow. So little me in 4th grade went home, absolutely crushed after sitting in that class and feeling absolutely devastated because I also was very much a people pleaser. I didn't like to rock the boat, but I sat there utterly distraught because up until that point, I have never had a teacher not like me. And it was an immediate thing. I knew she did not like me. Especially me saying artist. I don't know what it was, but I could tell the minute I said that, she had it out for me. Absolutely, she fucking hated me. And I proceeded to sit there feeling embarrassed and humiliated, and I had already gone through a lot of bullying by this point too, and I had kind of found a little bit of comfort in teachers at that point because they didn't bully me until that point. And when I came back home, I sat down in front of my TV and I didn't want to do homework because I was like, I don't want to do school anymore. And it absolutely crushed me because at that point I loved school. I loved learning. I did projects the teachers didn't ask me to do. So in 3rd grade, because I had loved science so much, and that's when I went to science camp, I had a thing for biology too, specifically with animals. So I had done an entire presentation on turkey vultures because for some reason in 3rd grade, that was my favorite animal, a turkey vulture. So I did that in 3rd grade because I was extra and my teacher was like, fuck it. I like animals too and I like turkey vultures now, so here's some extra credit. And it was hilarious. But after having my teacher tell me that art wasn't a realistic career, I was disheartened. I stopped doing homework for a while. I think I started again in 6th grade after I moved from a different teacher who was kind of an asshole too. But yeah, I fell out of love in school. I hated it at that point forward. And basically, I sat down, ignored my homework, turned on the TV, and an episode of Castle came on. And mind you, I love that show. I loved criminal shows. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna be a homicide detective. So the next day, in 4th grade, I came into class and she was like, do you have your realistic career? And I looked at this woman dead in the eyes and went, yes. And she's like, okay, present it. And I went, I'm gonna be a homicide detective. And everyone just went, what's homicide? And I went, murder. And everyone went, it was so bad. But she accepted it. She was like, yep, okay, that's a realistic job choice. Go sit down now. And I was like, bitch. I didn't do that because I was a people pleaser. So I just sat down. And for a while I was like, yep, that's apparently what I'm gonna do. Even though mentally I'm like ACAB. I don't know why. I was like, yep, apparently I'm gonna be a homicide detective. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do that. And mind you, I started actually studying that on the side too. So I almost fucked up my entire life by listening to this bitch who clearly had a stick up her ass. I don't even think works there anymore. But I niched into something that wasn't even right for me because of other people's opinions. That's fucked up. And that's also just kind of when I'm thinking back on it, because at that point I also stopped drawing. So yeah, at that point in my life as a child, I could have completely fucked myself up if I was just stubborn and kept on with that. So, talked about my struggles and everything like that, specifically with how school fucked me up and how capitalism fucked me up because of the burnout and everything like that I faced because I kept trying to niche myself down and just try to make myself fit into boxes that I did not fit into. you see me showing up, being like, hey, I'm here to investigate your mother's murder. I don't think anyone would look at me and be like, ah, yes. That non-binary bitch. They'll solve the case. Yeah, I don't think anyone would have much faith in me. But yeah. I just got really burnt out from so many different things, and also my health was shit. Like, really bad. I was actively dying most of my life, if I'm honest. So I have never had, like, a lot of the opportunity to explore kind of who I was behind all of the things I could do and achieve. Like, in school, I was an honor roll, even though I had to do homeschooling for a while, and I could not go outside. And then because I didn't go outside, I had a vitamin D deficiency so bad it nearly killed me as well. So, choices, you know? But I got to the point when I was in high school where I was like, fuck it, I don't want to be a homicide detective. I really don't. And so I went back to drawing and I started doing comics again because I had done comics as a child because I fell in love with the Amulet series. And that was really fun for me. And honestly, I need to finish that series. But the whole point of this is to be kind of like, I got out of it because I realized I would have hated my life if I had not just been like, fuck it, you know? And even though I had figured this out, I still almost went back into that whole shit of trying to niche myself down again. And like, honestly, I'm still kind of am, because now I have 2 different channels where I do my like cosplay and fandom stuff over there, and then my artsy fartsy bullshit over here. And that's still kind of niching down, but at least I'm allowing myself to explore on each of these sides. I let myself do gaming on that side too, and on this side now I'm painting a fucking coat. That's not very comic creator of me. However, fuck it, we ball. But I think all of us, when we are facing burnout and when we are trying to niche our content down and be the perfect influencer artist and bullshit like that, I think we need to just look at ourselves honestly and go, but are we really that one thing? No. So, if you are currently facing burnout with your chosen craft, I suggest to choose to do something else for a little bit. So I got really burnt out because I was trying to do a lot of my comic all at once. And that's just not how I roll 90% of the time. I can do a lot of work in small bursts. However, it's not good for me to try and do those lot of work small bursts all at once for obvious fucking reasons, because that's not how the human brain and body work, you know? And for me, I also get very depressed when I am not creating something. So, whenever I get burnt out and everyone's like, oh yeah, when you're burnt out you need to take a break, I try to listen to that bullshit. I got more depressed. So now I'm painting a coat after I just sewed fur to it. So, for you, if you are also a digital artist, pick up a paintbrush, paint something you own. The object of the game is not to try to make it perfect, but just to make it exist, and to make it fun, you know? Sometimes, when I am just overwhelmed and shit, I used to do this thing where I would just paint whatever pants I was wearing. I didn't care what the fuck pants they were. So like, I had these one pair of pants. I painted my living room, or my mom's living room. I helped her paint it, and I had accidentally knelt in like green paint, so it was just green, and I was wearing it as I was like staring at a canvas that I was failing to paint because I was just burnt out. Such fucking start painting that bitch, and you know what? I felt better, and I painted the fucking painting. So yeah, just start painting something. So if you do digital art, pick up a paintbrush, paint something. If you sew, try knitting. If you knit or crochet, why don't you try doing collages? And if you do collages, try photography. And if you do photography, why don't you try videography? Because they are different. And if you do videography, go do photography. Don't mind me getting paint on everything. It's fine. But yeah, instead of taking a break from it all and just not being creative, what you can do is just try something new. And honestly, I think if we all allowed ourselves to just be bad at something, we would experience a lot less burnout. Because honestly, I'm painting this coat kind of shittily. However, it still looks fucking rad. Why? Because I fucking painted it. And honestly, I know even if I see something as kind of bad, a lot of other people will look at it and go, that's fucking cool. Why? Because I made pants. I didn't make them. However, I painted on pants and made them look like Arcane. And I was like, eh. And by Arcane, I mean like the series. So they're like vaguely inspired by like the Hex Score, by Victor, and shit like that, you know? But I also added like a cool eye pattern. Why? Because I like drawing eyes, and I always have. I don't know why. I just love the eye patterns. I've done it since I was a child. I don't fucking know. I think it's just the little spooky, creepy child inside of me that's like still haunting the narrative. Because honestly, childhood me was onto something before school and everyone else ruined them with trauma and bullshit, you know? So, you gotta try something else. Try something new. Because as Einstein, or probably Einstein's wife, let's be honest, said, the definition of madness is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you're constantly getting burnt out, and you constantly have to take breaks, try something new. It is a lot better to try and fail and get a little frustrated with something new than to just sit and sulk and be like, why can't I finish my project? And just kind of be sulky. Because that's not gonna do anything. All that's gonna do is lead you more depressed and sulky. Because you're just doing the same shit over and over. Variety is the spice of life. And variety should also be the spices in your shelf. Because if they are not, your stomach is very sad, and so is your mouth, your taste buds. They are very sad. Enlighten yourself. So, yeah. Variety and diversity. That is the key to life. Who would have fucking guessed? It's not like that's how, nature intends things to be, diverse, and like, if there's too many of one thing in the same place, freaking, what do? They make them fucking infertile. That's also why, if you take people or even animals and their gene pool is too similar, that's also why they turned out fucked up, and they turn out fucked up for one, and two, that is also why a lot of times they have infertility problems. So, if nature wants you to have variety and diversity in your life, and that's also just how you make the best shit, why would you then proceed to go and limit yourself in any sense of the word? Seems a bit counterintuitive, but I digress. Honestly, someone who's a perfect example of this Prickly Alpaca. She does fucking everything. She is fucking puppetry. She's done freaking armor making. She's done freaking drawing digitally. She's animated. She's fucking done everything under the sun. And currently she's learning how to make stilts for a different costume. She's got the right fucking idea, and every time I see her, I'm just like, wow. Amazing. Immaculate. Everything she does. And I was always like, why do I love her content so much? And then I go and sit and try and bang my head against my drawing tablet for the 5th time, being like, why can't I draw? And then I go and watch a Prickly Alpaca video and be like, ah, amazing. And then I go back to my drawing and go, why can't I draw? Bitch, get up. Get up off the floor and go do something. Go do something fun. And also, fun for me is making YouTube videos sometimes, especially when I'm just yapping. None of this is scripted, as you can probably tell, because I keep going off into different topics, but you know what? I always bring it back. I always bring it back to the same thing. And I remember there was a comment a while ago that was like, you need to be more concise with your talking points because you ramble, and honestly, it's hard to watch. I'm not trying to be palatable. I am looking for people who are unpalatable like me, who understand what it's like to have a brain that goes in so many different directions that it's kind of crazy. But you know what? Again, I still bring it back to the point, because my mind can also go a million different ways. So can my hobbies, my art, and also so can you. Bye guys.